Would he be available? It's the NBA Finals. If he can go, he's going to try to give it a go, and he does that early on, spinning and hitting. Giannis to the bench after playing 5. Giannis working on Jay Crowder. Gets to his left hand. DeAndre Ayton taking his turn. Giannis is able to bully his way to the rim. 8 points on 3 of 4 from the floor. 5 boards in the first quarter, but the Suns had a 4-point advantage. Suns lead by 3. That looks like a mismatch, and it is. Paul. This is going to be something Tim Legler will point out. Basically picking who he wanted to guard him. Hits that one over Brook Lopez. Devin Booker was tremendous in this game. Thought for sure this guy would show out on this stage of the playoffs, and that's all he has been doing. Giannis with a chase down here. Bridges looks like he's got a lane. Mikal Bridges gets chased down by Giannis with a big block. So trying to impact both ends of the floor. But again, it's the Suns that had the lead, and they worked from a pretty comfortable margin. Again, it's Paul. This time he's guarded by Lopez. Hits the 3. Gets the foul. Lopez called for that flagrant. Can't step under. Every time that happens, you immediately think of what happened with Kawhi against the Warriors. That big lead went bye-bye. Paul, beautiful to Ayton up top. Comfortable working margin. Booker gets caught, finds Paul. All 3 of these from the corner. And the Valley has got its full support behind Paul and the Suns. In his bag there, working on Portis. That's just not a fair fight. Shout to George Gervin. One thing I could do was finger roll and pull from 3 while we're at it. Booker or Paul assisted or scored 29 of the Suns' 35 in the third quarter, and that comfortable margin now reaching blowout territory. The question was, would the Bucks have a run in them? And the answer, kinda. Giannis the kick ahead to Chris Middleton, who had a big game, finds Bryn Forbes, single digits. After it got down to 7, Book can't leave that man naked from 3 like that. Again, it's who do you want to guard you? Get Connaughton. Paul gave it to everybody. Not picking on any one defender in particular. All right, Giannis, clever, draw the contact, get the and one. And it was just a 7-point game a second ago. Not anymore. As Chris Paul and the Phoenix Suns built that comfortable lead. 13-point lead. Paul, Ayton, again. The fine finish. This time it's a double, and Ayton. The rewards of being a terrible team. They got Ayton and Bridges in that same 18 draft. They're putting their fingerprints on it. Oh, that for a team like Phoenix, who as a group had not competed in the playoffs yet, to win 16 games, man, that seemed like quite a mountain, right? I mean, that's typically there's a growth process here. They've got 13 wins, and Chris Paul's role in this 13th win, as you were there in the building, how would you best describe what he provided this Suns group tonight?
Well, it was a sensational performance. You've got a veteran leader that's had 16 years in the league, and even with devoid of a championship, is still recognized as one of the greatest point guards to have ever played this game. But when you couple that with the inabilities of the Milwaukee Bucks, you look at CP3 and you say, well, duh, what did you expect from him? When you're going to put Bobby Portis on them, when you got Brook Lopez on them, when you got P.J. Tucker on them. Wilbon and I were just talking about that a few minutes ago. What the hell do you expect is going to happen? It is mind-boggling to me how I don't want to be insulting, but absolutely clueless the Milwaukee Bucks appeared last night in being prepared for this game. You know that CP3 and Devin Booker, you know what they're going to give to you, particularly when they're hitting their perimeter shots. But a guy like CP3 is literally picking defenders. Who am I going to pick on next? And absolutely, positively no adjustment was made whatsoever, and that's why he looked so spectacular.
So you didn't want to be insulting, but they were clueless.
Yeah. I'm trying to be, look, Scott, man, I'm trying to be nice, but at the same time give you and our audience what it is. Tim Legler was right there. He's far nicer than me, I guess. But the bottom line is he knows exactly what I'm saying. If you look at the adjustments and then look at the ball movement, look at how Monty Williams had these guys moving without the ball. But Milwaukee was standing around and just trying to give the ball to Middleton.
I understand, and I'm trying to be nice to you, but Chris Paul is standing by, and so I'm going to have to say thank you for now, and we will welcome Chris Paul to the show. Chris, thank you. It's Scott Van Pelt. Welcome back to the program. A tremendous performance tonight.
What's happening?
You've been through so much in this game. There's nothing that's new to you, and yet this was, right? This is the first finals game, and I wonder what, if anything, about it felt different than anything you have experienced to date in your illustrious career.
Another game, obviously. The stakes a little higher. The intensity was there, but we're prepared. Our coaches prepared us. All of our guys on our team, we didn't put in the work, so now it's time to get to it.
And you did get your ability to find the matchup you wanted and exploit it. Was that what you came into this game sort of eyeballing? This is what we want to try to do.
Well, you take what they give you. When they played big, they switched early, then they sort of went into a drop. Then they went small. We saw them switching everything against the Hawks. So, we done seen every coverage you could see all season long, and our team just has so much depth. So if you try to take one thing away, we'll just find the next guy.
In Booker, Ayton, Bridges, and I'm talking just about the young guys for the moment, just because this is their first run through the postseason, Chris. You've been through it so often. I don't know if proud is the right word, but how do you best describe what you're getting from these young guys and how you feel about what you're getting?
I kind of talk crazy to them sometimes because they're going to think it's sweet. They first time getting in the playoffs and they done got all the way to the finals.
Right.
But I think it's just a credit to them. Especially Book. He's the one who's been here the longest, been through some tough seasons here in Arizona and Phoenix. So it's nice, man. It's a great group to be around, and we just want to keep having fun.
And I keep going back to you knowing what it is, because you do. And there are still 3 to get, and no one's throwing a parade after tonight. But how are you best able to stay present, Chris, in these moments, recognizing what the stakes are with each victory, how much closer the ultimate prize becomes?
With me, it may be the experience, the heartbreak, the tough losses, and understanding that it's not over till it's over. It's just one game. We here at home, we're supposed to win at home. Game 2 is the biggest game of the season right now. So with me, it's just about staying the course and making sure my guys stay locked in.
Well, Chris, I appreciate you stopping by after the victory. 3 more to get. Hopefully we can talk to you again throughout the process. I appreciate you being here.
Always, Scott. Appreciate you. Go Deeks.
There you go. Chris Paul, after a tremendous performance. And Stephen A., I'll welcome you back in. You heard what he had to say about the performances of these young guys. I'll get to you just in 1 second, Stephen A. You see a 30-point game in the NBA Finals at 36 or older all time. Kareem's on that list. He was ageless. Tim Duncan, you could say the same about him. And now Chris Paul, in his first NBA Finals game, joins that list. I wanted to get back to you, Stephen A., just to get your thoughts about what you heard, specifically about the youngsters, because this is their first playoff run, whether it's Booker or Ayton or Bridges. What are you seeing from those guys in complementing what Paul is providing?
Well, first of all, I'm seeing skill. Devin Booker is a star. This brother is special, and tonight was the latest example of how special he can be. Let's give major props to DeAndre Ayton. He had about 22 points, 19 rebounds, and was a constant presence and force throughout this evening. Mikal Bridges came off and hit a couple of threes. Obviously, Cameron Payne, he doesn't shoot much, but when he puts it up, it usually goes in. I'm sorry, not Cameron Payne, but Cameron Johnson. And then you look at Cameron Payne, what he comes in, what he's capable of doing off the bench. But it's a tribute and a credit to them that they're willing to listen to the tutors to the, just the leadership and the guidance from a veteran like CP3. In today's generation of players, so many times we look at youngsters and they've got the skill, and because they've got the skill, Scott, as you've reported on so many occasions, they've got the skills, they've got the bag, they know what they can bring to the table, and as a result, they feel they have arrived, that they don't necessarily need to listen to anybody. But
right.
CP3 comes here, devoid of a championship, having had that escape him throughout his illustrious 16-year career, and despite the absence of a championship, they treat him like a champion because they respect the knowledge that he's trying to bless them with and the level of wisdom that he's imparted upon them. And so you got to give them credit where credit is due. To be young, to be established, to have the money, to have the skill set, to have all the adulation thrown in their direction, and to still be humbled enough to be held in check by a leader searching for his first championship, not one that came here as a champion. You got to give credit where credit is due. It shows that although they're young, they're incredibly mature, and they showed it tonight by being prepared for game one. And pretty much throughout these playoffs, every single series they've walked into, they've come here prepared and ready to play and put somebody else on their heels to start the playoffs. You got to give credit where credit is due in that regard.
I agree. Really well put. There's a lot to like about being out in the Valley, but there's one thing that's the challenge, and that's that wake-up call comes early. And I know first take will be, I'm looking at my watch, you got to get some early rest to get up early and bring the heat tomorrow. I appreciate you.
I'm good, but please don't say bring the heat. It's 106 degrees already here, okay?
Yeah, but it's a dry heat. You don't sweat?
I don't care. It's heat. Listen, I ain't going to complain. I like the heat better than the cold, so I ain't going to front. But it's roasting here. Roasting.
Turn the AC
you have
up,
a tan
my guy.
already, Scott.
I know your suite is I know your suite is well looked after. Stephen A. Smith, I appreciate you, man.
Something like that. All right, my man.
All right, the Suns improved to a 4-0 in Game 1s this postseason, outscoring opponents by more than 11 per game. 11 of the previous dozen teams to go 4-0 in Game 1s went on to win the title. DeAndre Ayton, who we've been giving a great deal of credit to because he continues to earn it throughout this postseason. Another 20-point game on 80% shooting, fourth such game this postseason, the most by any player in the shot clock era, which dates all the way back to the mid-50s, so it's been a while. As for the 36-year-old NBA Finals rookie, Chris Paul, 32-9, the first player with at least 38-9 in an NBA Finals debut since Michael Jordan in 1991. Coach Bud on what he saw from Paul and the Suns. Welcome in Tim Legler. And Tim, a little bit later, you're going to show us some of the specifics of how Paul was able to hunt the matchups he wanted, but just the overarching sort of themes that stand out, bullet points from this victory from the Suns. What were they?
First, for me, there was two completely different levels of sharpness in this game. I'm sorry, Phoenix was just so much more prepared, so much more confident, so much more sure of what they were doing, what they were trying to accomplish. They basically had Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton be the absolute best versions of themselves, and Devin Booker does what he does. He got to his number. He didn't shoot the ball great, but to have your three best players play that well, and you look at Milwaukee, Giannis clearly wasn't himself. Chris Middleton was pretty good overall most of the night, and Jrue Holiday wasn't very good offensively. He lost his aggressiveness once again. So for me, no comparison in the two teams tonight. That did not feel like, at one point it was 9 with 6 minutes to go. That felt like a 25-point game to me. Phoenix was that much sharper than the Milwaukee Bucks tonight. And the other thing that you can tell is the deflections, the active hands, the difficulty Milwaukee had just completing simple passes in their half-court offense shows you how prepared Phoenix was for what they were trying to do to them, what they were running, where their next body movement was going to be. I just thought Phoenix was all over this. And that's coaching, it's confidence, and it's an incredible amount of trust amongst their teammates and chemistry. They were ready. They did not look like the stage was too big for them at all. And that's a great sign for Phoenix going forward in this series.
And we can tell you that Chris Paul will be joining us here on the show a little bit later. And Tim, let's widen this out a little bit to welcome Stephen A. Smith into the conversation. And Stephen A., I remember saying,
play-wise, he always gets better when he plays.
We welcome Tim Legler back now as promised. And what's so fun about having you here is I can just come in the office where you're taking your notes and watching and just kind of just shake my head and giggle at what we're watching here, thinking, This approach from the Bucks doesn't seem like it's going to work. What can you show us about what Chris Paul did?
When they lay me to rest, it's going to say on my tombstone, here lies a guy who never understood unnecessary switches and drop coverage. All right, I'm telling you right now.
Big-ass tombstone.
I don't get it. It is going to be, because I don't get it, and the Phoenix Suns were prepared for it. And, some things you put in terms of sets that you want to try to execute. Other things are just reads that you teach over the course of a season. And here's what I'm talking about, this unnecessary switch. I just don't get why, if you're PJ Tucker, you're on the ball. No screen is set. This is not a screen. This is a slip. There is absolutely no reason right here why Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to jump out. Why not just on this slip, just let Giannis go with him? You wanted PJ Tucker on Chris Paul for a reason at the start of the possession. Just leave it that way, but they don't. Instead, here you go. You got the switch. All right, now you got DeAndre Ayton on PJ Tucker. The only question is, how are we going to get him to basketball? You see Chris Paul looking in right there. He doesn't like the way this looks because you got two help guys right here ready to pinch. That's not a great angle. So now here's where the instinct kicks in, and this comes to repetition. Let's get it to the corner. Again, you still got the mismatch in the post. PJ Tucker fronting. Take a look at the weak side. This is not a good passing angle. Taking a look in there. So how do you get him to basketball? Instincts. You teach us over the course of a season. Let's flash middle. Let's get the ball right here. Great read right here from the weak side by Johnson right there. Freeze it. Now PJ Tucker is going to front. He's still fronting the entire time. The problem is, this is a 7-footer down here. Yep. This is easy pitch and catch. This is literally a practice drill that you anticipate when a team fronts, go high, low. That's as easy as it gets for DeAndre Ayton. Now here's the other one, the drop coverage. Starts off to run some action, and really all they're trying to do is get this guy occupied. Brook Lopez is looking all over here because they wanted Devin Booker off a single double. I love the Suns because they always get into quick secondary action. Watch how fast DeAndre Ayton sprints up, and he's going to leave Brook Lopez in the dust. And now Chris Paul is going to come off with all kinds of room. Comes off the screen. Look at this cushion. Now, most people will think, let's pull up and shoot that. The problem is Chris Paul doesn't like that shot. He loves coming left, snaking back to the right. So he's going to take Brook Lopez on a nice little ride here, and he's going to get some help from Devin Booker, who clears his man out so Chris Paul can get to that little leaner on the baseline. This is all set up by drop coverage on the initial point of attack. You cannot do this against Chris Paul and Devin Booker. You just can't do it, and I think you're going to see a massive adjustment. Now, I heard Stephen A. talk a little bit about it, and I heard Mark Jackson talking about it. What they need to do is put Jrue Holiday and Chris Paul and say, you got to be a dog on him. Hunt him. At 30 feet, go under the screen. You don't have to go over. Inside the three-point line, fight over the top, get a hard hedge from the big, and I want Jrue Holiday on Chris Paul's hip as much as he possibly can unless he's in foul trouble. Booker's going to get his numbers. So use other guys on him. Connaughton, PJ Tucker, Middleton can get him some. Brandon Forbes, go ahead. Chris Paul is the key to this series, and Jrue Holiday needs to lock in on him as much as possible.
You think of a quarterback like a vet. Just say Tom Brady, because there's nobody older than him, right? You're trying to disguise a blitz or something. He's going to look at it. He's going to know exactly what's coming. I can't think of a worse point guard to leave in a situation where he could hunt the matchup he wants when you're going to switch than Chris Paul. You could have shown time and time again where he just chose who he wanted to guard him. Yeah. You can't let that happen.
And it's not. And tonight it was more as a scorer because that's what was there for him. But there's other plays in this game I could have shown you where he ends up getting like a hockey assist. But again, it leads to the Bucks chasing the ball around like Keystone Cops because they got the matchup they wanted. They broke somebody down off the dribble. They're in the paint, and now the Bucks are reacting to that. I just didn't see anything Milwaukee did tonight that said to the Suns, we are going to dictate to you what we want you to do offensively. Everything they did was set up to react. Can't do it. Chris Paul, Devin Booker are too good at ball screen players. DeAndre Ayton is too good and too skilled and too talented on the slips and the dives when he gets a smaller defender switching onto him. You've got to let these guys play him a little bit more straight up. At least let them fight over some screens. You obviously are going to need help on some screens, but to premeditate switches, like the first example I showed, when no screen is set, and you had PJ Tucker on Chris Paul for a reason, no screen is set, and now let him go run with Ayton and let Giannis jump out on the guard, and eventually now the Suns are just going, okay, we practiced this drill. Let's go to the corner, run some high-low, get DeAndre Ayton a layup. It was so clockwork. Give Monty Williams all the credit in the world. They've watched a lot of film on this team. They anticipated the switches, and they hammered them every time they did. But I do think it was easy pickings for the Suns. This was not rocket science out there for them, for a guy like Chris Paul to figure this out. Get what you want. by calling out who you want to set the screen. There's got to be a massive adjustment on the part of Mike Budenholzer. And if there isn't, they can't beat this team.
There you go. You mentioned Jrue Holiday. He spoke afterwards about his mindset defensively tonight.
Comfortable.
That's interesting. Both he and Bud mentioned one word specifically, rhythm.
Yeah.
How does that reveal itself specifically to Chris Paul? What are they talking about in your opinion?
When he gets space off a ball screen, it's exactly the world he wants to live in. He's one of the best mid-range players that this league has ever seen.
You can still do that, by the way, kids. They don't have to be dunks or three-pointers.
That's right. And he wants that lean back shot, and he wants to get it somewhere inside the foul line area. It's his favorite place to be. That's comfort zone. That's rhythm, allowing a guy to get into his wheelhouse. And when you let him come off of that kind of space, that's what's going to happen. So, look, if I'm Jrue Holiday, and Damian Lillard called this guy the best perimeter defensive player in the NBA. It's a pretty good source that's coming from.
I'd say.
Okay? If I'm Jrue Holiday, I'm going to Mike Budenholzer, and I'm saying, listen, let me hound Chris Paul and try to wear him down. I'm going to fight over as many screens as I can. And again, Scott, one of the adjustments that teams just don't make, and I don't know why, because you can ask guys to do this, depending where the screen is set, you don't have to go over every screen. If a screen is set at 30 feet for a guy like Chris Paul, you do not need to fight over it. He's not going to pull it from there. Every now and then, maybe, this isn't Curry, Trae Young, or Lillard. Go under if it's set far out on the floor. Go under, meet him on the other side, but keep Holiday on him. If it's set tighter to the three-point line, yes, you've got to chase over the top of that. Hopefully you get a little help from the big, but then ultimately fight your way back to Chris Paul and track him from behind if you're Jrue Holiday. I am going to Mike Budenholzer and saying, let me do this. I need to disrupt his rhythm. Booker's a different animal altogether. Chris Paul is the guy that is the key to this series, and Jrue Holiday is the one guy they have that is equipped to be able to take on this challenge and at least disrupt his efficiency. Tonight, Chris Paul had it far easier than he expected in his first finals game.
It's funny, I just wrote down that word, and far be it from me. I've never been in the arena, but certainly Chris Paul, I'm not saying it was easy. He made it appear to be. Apparently, Brook Lopez moments ago just said he could have done a better job trusting his teammates on switches. That's going to be what they talk about between now and Thursday. It has to be. You can't let this happen again.
No doubt.
We're going to run this back.
No doubt.
All right. We will continue. More from Tim a little bit later about
level, and they keep me intent with it.
We welcome Tim Legler back. You just had an observation. If you're DeAndre Ayton, what do you get?
Take that graphic that you just showed, put that on your wall, blow that thing up, put it in a frame.
I mean, I'm sure he has grand aspirations for his career, but I mean, you're not joking. You're talking about Bill, you're talking about Wilt, you're talking about Kareem, and you're on that list. He continues to be excellent, and the Suns get this victory. But you made the point earlier, Tim. You expect to see a different Bucks approach on the defensive side as it relates to switching. How different do you anticipate Giannis will appear in Game 2?
I think significantly, unless he's just completely lying about how his leg feels. I mean, if he's saying, hey, it felt no pain, felt great out there, and we're going to take him at his word, then I'm going to say what I saw tonight was a guy that was sort of tentative, feeling that thing out. That was a very serious injury. He's been through a lot. I'm sure he's still got swelling in there. He seemed like a guy that was not in his normal aggressive mindset. That's not the same guy I've watched for the last few years. So if he's telling the truth and he really does feel good physically, well, the test is now behind me. Game 2, you get back to being Giannis Antetokounmpo, playing downhill, getting in gaps, taking advantage of a team that plays a lot of small lineups. DeAndre Ayton's a legit big, but they have a lot of lineups out there with two guards, Jay Crowder and Mikal Bridges. That's a small team, and those are typically the kinds of teams that Giannis Antetokounmpo guts you with, because he gets you with that stride, he gets in a gap, and there's not a lot of size there as a second-line defender. That's what I expect to see out of Giannis. He has to be, obviously, much better than he was tonight if the Milwaukee Bucks want to have a shot at winning this.
Our guy Stanford, Steve, hope you're enjoying the beach, big man, makes the point, and he's right, that the biggest mistake we tend to make this time of year in particular is to overreact to what we see in a game, presuming it will continue in the next. It often does not. But was there anything that the Bucks did that they're going to want to take with them to Game 2? Obviously, they want a different result, but you're telling me don't bury the Bucks just yet. I mean, were there things you saw that you're like, that wasn't bad?
Not a lot, truthfully.
Understood.
But this is one of the highest scoring teams in the last couple of decades in the NBA. Mm-hmm. They're much better offensively than they showed tonight. The problem was they kept taking the ball to the net all night. They were so bad defensively and so ill-equipped to defend them and offer resistance to what Phoenix was trying to run. You can't get that train moving up the floor, and that's when they're at their best.